Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another beautiful, lovely episode of mine. I'm yours truly, Sprite, and we are going to talk about AEW and is it competitive to WWE? Because there's been a lot of online debate that I have noticed on X. I don't know outside of it, probably on Reddit and Facebook as well. But I have noticed mainly because I'm an X user, Twitter, whatever you want to call it. I'm pretty sure they kept a Twitter name. There's been a lot of argument and debates over is AEW competitive to WWE. And so we're going to clear the air and I'm going to give out my opinion on it. And I'm sorry if there's some crackling noise in the background. I'm in a shed and it's been raining. It finally stopped raining. So I was trying to find the perfect opportunity to record and this is the perfect time. So that being said, we're going to get on to the debate. So, AEW has been a ongoing promotion since 2019? October is when they first released their first AEW Dynamite episode of 2019. I forgot what date. I think it was October anyways. And ever since they've been going, WWE has always been mentioned or always been in the corner, right? And here's the thing is that a lot of people who has been there for the WCW versus WWF days, they know that at that time there was a lot of head-to-head and a lot of jabs. A lot of people going on the mic and dissing their former bosses, right? And that was nothing new, and this is still nothing new to the war that's going on. You could call it war, or you can just call it friendly competition. Whatever you want to call it, doesn't matter. But they're obviously competitors against each other, right? It's obviously whoever has the best wrestling promotion is the best. Of course, WWE has always been on top of the mountain, right? They're one of the toughest people to knock down, and especially with the stuff that's going on now that they're part of TKO, which has UFC, and other things. They're part of this huge organization. They're doing different things. They're doing things that Vince McMahon wouldn't have done, but they're doing different things, and it's working. They're traveling a lot more. They're booking their stars very well. They're major heads, stars like. Yeah, big names, movie names like John Cena, right? Because when John Cena was in WWE, right, he was big. I don't think he's as big as he is now. And it's mainly because of the movies he's been in, right? Peacemaker, you can call him superhero, supervillain. That was one of his biggest roles in the theatric part of his career, right? And he's done other movies, and he's a very good actor from what I can tell. From all the movies that my fiance and I have watched together, he is a very darn good actor. I would argue better than The Rock. And speaking of The Rock, they also have The Rock. The Rock also is part of TKO. He also does things in WWE. It makes sense, right? Use your big names because you know they're big names. And so they got all these megastars in WWE. It makes sense for them to use it, capitalize it, and that's how a lot of these venues are getting outsold, right? Almost everywhere they go to, every event looks fantastic. It's a bigger crowd than what they normally had 10 years ago, 20 years ago, or whatever it is, right? Because when I first started going to WWE back in 2010, my first event I went to was SmackDown. Now, it wasn't as big of a show because it was still huge. Like, don't get me wrong, WWE was popular, but behind me, where I sat in the the camera position seating area. Behind me, all those seats would be curtained out, right? And that's how it's been for a good bit. Some shows would sell, some shows wouldn't. But from what I recall, back in those days, those seats weren't filled. Now obviously, the camera and WWE's job is to make the venue look full, so it always looked full no matter what. And it wasn't a bad crowd either. Definitely over way over 5,000, way over 6,000, probably 8,000, 9,000, I don't know, but it wasn't a full venue sellout. So they still had good crowds and stuff like that, right? Now, if we go back to here, WWE has a lot of changes. Now it's super popular. Now they are in a better spot than they were 5 years ago, 6 years ago. Because in 2019, big downfall, right? There's a huge downfall in 2019. That's when people started really complaining online about it. That's when people were giving up watching Raw. That's when the show was unbearable. That's when everything was just not going the way WWE would have wanted it to. And so this pushed AEW, right? This is why AEW exists. This is why AEW came to existence. Because this is something wrestling fans wanted. This is something that just something else. WWE fans can stick to their product, and AEW fans, now they have something to watch, right? In 2019, AEW came to existence, and in 2019 was a good year for AEW because they first came out with a couple of pay-per-views before they came out with their TV show. Everything was new, everything was fresh, everything looked different, and it was an alternative. And that was something that fans have been asking for a long time. So you cannot hate on AEW for existing. And you cannot hate AEW for being an alternative because it's good to have alternatives. It's good to have different mixed opinions, and it's good to it's just good overall. Competition is good. And it was good back in WCW and WWF because competition made those two companies try to produce the best product that they can produce at that time, right? Because who's to say we would have had the Attitude Era? Who's to say we would have had NWO? Who's to say we would have had DX? What would have had happened if WCW was non-existent at that time? What would happen if it was just WWF? Right? So you got to think there has to be an alternative because one show is not going to be the best show, in an opinion. It can be a dominant show. WWE is dominant. It has all the stars, the people. They have the venues, they have the looks, they have the production, the commercials, the ads, the people. But people like me, I go towards AEW because of their content. The way they produce it, it's just wrestling. They tell stories in the ring, outside the ring. They have wrestlers who dedicate themselves a lot. They risk a lot, their bodies, in AEW, in that ring. And it's good to have that alternative because those are wrestlers that show what wrestlers are meant to be, right? In WWE, it's more storyline based. It's not wrestling driven as much as AEW. Everything has to have a story. Everything has to be like a TV show. It's a normal, average TV show. So, while that is happening over there, we have AEW, and that's a good alternative. So, now we're going to get into the topic of, all right, well, is AEW competitive now? So, I have to say yes. Okay, why is it competitive? Why is it not competitive? There's been a lot of online debates, and these are mainly from fan bases, right? A lot of people are arguing online from certain sides of fan bases. WWE fans often hate AEW and their fans. Vice versa. And so we're going to get stupid comments. Like, is AEW is not competitive to WWE? Yes, they are. They are competitive because we can look at what's been going on, especially recently, especially this year. And I like to do a lot of more research than just talk about it. I like to actually look at people's opinions and see what all people have to say. Because, I don't know, it's interesting to gather opinions and then just look at them. So, in my mind, AEW is competitive because WWE has been, as of late, trying to outbook AEW in regards to shows and venues. So, for example, AEW has All In coming up July 16th. Don't quote me on it. Either 12th or 16th. I would have to look at this calendar here. July 12th. Okay, so July 12th is All In. After that's been long announced, because this has been planned for months, All In. All In is the biggest show of the year for AEW. Aside from Double or Nothing, which was also a great pay-per-view for wrestling fans, I would recommend to watch if you enjoy seeing people have fun and wrestling being wrestling. All In is coming up on July 12th. WWE recently, the past couple of weeks, they have released that they're going to host a whole weekend worth of wrestling shows that weekend in Atlanta. I believe it was WWE Evolution and what was it? NXT Backlash or something like that. I can't remember. One way or the other. Or was it Saturday Night Main Event? Oh. Anyways, they're booking shows over that weekend. And this is not the first time they have tried to outbook a show, right? Because, again, this AEW has announced this long ahead. And anytime almost AEW seems to be posting, hey, we're going to be doing events, and WWE follows up and basically tries to counter product it, right? So, in another example, AEW is holding multiple events in the 2300 arena, ECW arena, right? And they're doing this whole, was it like 3 weeks in a row shows over there? 1 week before that, WWE is doing an NXT show at the 2300. After AEW had announced what they're doing, WWE follows up on that and says, all right, well, we're going to do an NXT there before you do. Why? Well, I would assume because fans would spend money first on an NXT show before they drain themselves going to all these other AEW shows, right? It's, I guess, about who gets there first. I don't get it, but I also get it because you want people to spend money. They're going to go to NXT. And then the logic is, oh no, they've already been to a wrestling show. Why do they need to spend more money on another show, right? So, wrestling fans have it good over there at the 2300 arena because now they get to go to multiple wrestling events. But that's kind of the idea. Is AEW competitive to WWE? Well, WWE certainly seems. It definitely seems like they are being competitive. And WWE looks at them as competitive for sure. That's why they're doing what they're doing. Another example. AEW World's End last year in 2024, in December. I was there for it. One of the best pay-per-views I've attended to. Best wrestling crowd. Best show. What did WWE do after World's End has been announced? WWE has put a house show at the same location in Orlando at the Kia, was it? Either Forum or Center or whatever it's called. I should know. Shame on me for not knowing. But in Orlando, there's the main arena, the Kia, whatever it's called, and it holds thousands and thousands of people. They decide to book their world tour over there. It's just a house show though, but nonetheless, same day, same night as World's End, same city, but AEW was on the other side of town at the UCF arena. Very good venue. They've been there multiple times. I recommend going there if you are a wrestling fan because that crowd, college crowd, by the way, fantastic. Everyone cheering almost the entire time. Everyone had great energy. I have not had a bad time going to UCF arena. That being said, I digress. I feel like WWE has been looking at AEW competitively because of the actions that they've been doing. Now, a lot of fans on X will say, oh, well, WWE would never do that to WCW back in the day because they respected them. Well, they had the Monday Night Wars, did they not? They literally had the same show in the same time slot in the same day. Monday nights. Every night. They were competitive. That's just the nature of it. They were going head to head for years before things got solved, before WCW got bought out. They were going head to head every Monday, even when WWF was losing, and then when WCW was losing the Monday Night Wars. They were head to head up until they died. So you cannot tell me that. You cannot tell me, oh, well, WWE would never try to outbook that. No, they did. 4 years. What, 5 straight years? 4 years in a row? Just head-to-head collision every Monday night. And they would always do jabs over the promos, just like how AEW and WWE are doing. And another thing is that Triple H makes comments, these little petty comments, right? And it's nothing against him, but you can look at his press conferences, you can look at his interviews, you can do whatever, you do your own research as well. You can see that he makes other petty comments, and he doesn't say AEW, but he says other promotion. And what everyone knows what the other promotion is, it's AEW, but they're not going to say it. They don't want to say it. They don't have to say it. They're WWE. It's just so weird that they are focusing on more so against AEW than booking their product, booking their shows, because they got the names, they got the wrestlers. Let's go ahead and book great stories with them. Let's just focus on yourself, because that's what AEW is doing. AEW has not done anything to go out of their way to outbook a venue near WWE. They can if they wanted to. They can poke the bear. And they make their little jabs, but only once in a while, right? They don't go out of their way to do weird stuff like booking the same shows on the same day. Because even when AEW Dynamite in 2019 was first mentioned, they were the first ones to take the Wednesday night time slot. NXT, then after that announcement, takes the Wednesday time slot as well to go head to head. The first time since the TNA versus WWE thing was a thing, right? This is first time in a while that WWE had competition and NXT lost. The Wednesday Night Wars are over, and AEW swiped them, and they forced NXT to go Tuesday nights. I still recommend that, because even though some days NXT has more viewership than AEW, it's still probably recommended to keep both products separate, because you put NXT back on there, well, now you're forcing fans to choose a side. And that's a risk. You've already seen what they've done the first couple of years going to battle. You don't need to do it again. So it's good that NXT has their own time slot on Tuesday, because it makes wrestling fans hype up for Tuesday. So like, more wrestling. You get wrestling almost every day now. So now you got that separation happening. And it's like, ever since 2019, WWE has always been just trying to outsell their product over AEW. So, in a sense that they're doing things strategically on purpose, what else does that mean? What else does that mean other than, hey, AEW is competitive to us, we need to look good, we need to figure out how we can gain our own momentum, we need to figure out how we can try to demote them as much as we can, right? Because that's the whole purpose. You are trying to gain viewership, you're trying to gain buzz, you're trying to gain attention. You don't want the other company to get more viewers or more attention, and that's just the nature of it. Because a lot of times, anytime to, like, AEW has hardly any pay-per-views. I mean, they do have pay-per-views, but they don't have as much pay-per-views as WWE. All right, AEW plans their pay-per-views months in advance, and they don't have too many. Not as much as WWE. And so when WWE plans their shows, it's often because it's after AEW has announced a show, and now they're going to try to outbook it. Great. So someone has to tell me, like, how is that not competitive? How is that just, like, I don't know. That seems very competitive to me, right? AEW is not doing anything but booking shows and focusing on themselves. I really wish WWE would do that. They have the people. They have the wrestlers. They have the product. Focus on yourself. And I'm not saying, hey, back off from AEW. enjoy the competition, because competition pushes them to make better product. And that's why WWE is so successful right now, because of how much better they've gotten. Keep getting better. Don't just, try to focus all on AEW, but just keep getting better. Maybe then I'll enjoy your show a little more, right? And I'm not hating WWE. I respect them, and I enjoy the wrestlers on there. Everything about WWE is great, right? It's just so weird that people will say AEW is not competition to WWE. Yes, they are. Look at what they're doing. Okay, well, TNA is now second promotion. No, they're not. TNA is not the second promotion. That's another thing people have been arguing about, is that TNA has been long gone, like, under the sewer now. And it's not to disrespect any of the people that work there or anything like that, but TNA as a promotion is not number 2. Not what it used to be. If you said it was a number 2 promotion 15 years ago, yeah, it was a number 2 promotion. It was right behind WWE. But those same people who watched TNA 15 years ago most likely dropped TNA. Most of those fans probably don't watch TNA anymore. I don't watch TNA anymore. I used to be a hardcore TNA guy. I used to watch all those stars. I used to watch AJ Styles. I used to watch Samoa Joe. Used to watch Sting, Kurt Angle. I was there for the main event Mafia. All those top guys. Beer Money. Oh my goodness, I love that tag team. It had to be my favorite tag team right there. Beer Money. The name and everything. They had different characters. They were an alternative, just like what AEW is now, right? TNA has changed so much over the years. And they've gone to the point where there's no coming back. I don't think, anyways. Maybe they can one day, but I don't ever see them just coming up. I just don't. So, with that being said, good on TNA for being able to host a couple of shows with semi-big crowds. But just because they had a couple of big crowds, just because they are getting some NXT guys in there, or WWE guys, it doesn't make them second, because they're still, I don't think they've gained huge viewerships. I don't think the people who are on X talking about TNA really watch TNA. I'm not seeing it. I'm not seeing TNA actually being changed. They're bigger than their Twitch days, but you can't say it's second. You can't say it's the second best promotion. It's beneath AEW. It's third at least, but then you got New Japan and then AAA. So where does that really rank TNA? In American soil, sure, let's go with third. But realistically, TNA is not high up there. Not what it used to be. If they can ever regain their popularity and go back up there, sure, why not? We'll say it. But they don't have the proper TV deal. They don't have the proper necessities. They have a partnership with WWE, which was the wildest thing, by the way. And there's been a lot of TNA mentions. WWE has pretty much done all they can to make TNA exist to people, right? Like, people now know TNA is a thing. No one's watching it, though. So what are we doing? So how is this benefiting TNA other than WWE just trying to take over the world? Because it seems like that's what WWE is trying to do, right? Part of WWE's fun little plan is to take over the world, it seems like, because they've now partnered with TNA, so that way, they can cut ties with AEW, because AEW used to be with TNA, but even then, with that partnership, TNA hardly got any boost. When Kenny Omega was their champion, I would watch it maybe a couple of times, but that was probably the last time I watched TNA. And I'm glad they changed their name, by the way. It's so much better than Impact Wrestling. They never should have changed it to Impact Wrestling. They should have always kept it TNA. That's just my opinion. And I'm glad they brought it back to TNA. Anyways, I digress. And then you have just the collaboration between NXT and TNA. You could do a full invasion angle, and I bet you that would get a lot more views. But that's not happening. So I don't know. And now they got Trick Williams as TNA champ. Trick, who was NXT guy. And so it's like they're trying to make TNA, be up there, but it's just not. I don't think it is. So that's just an opinion. These are just opinions, but it's just from what I'm seeing. So AEW, even though they've declined, right? They're not what they used to be. But sometimes an AEW show will be a fun show though. Not all their venues are going to be the same. Not all their venues are going to be an arena. Not all their venues are going to be, fantastic looking. But the venues that they have been going through, as of late anyways, I find them entertaining. I find them great. I find the crowds great. I think putting a couple thousand people jam-packed in an arena of people that just want to watch AEW, the people who want to be there, right? Not people who are just there to be there, but people who want to be there. I think those are more energetic crowds, and they're fun, and it's great to watch the product that way. So that's just my opinion. Instead of trying to book multiple arenas with like half-empty crowds or whatever, I'd rather just see venues that are gonna get sold, and it's great that it looks like that because AEW can sell an amphitheater or whatever it is that they're gonna be venued in, and it's gonna look great. And it only makes fans want to be there, right? Because when a show is sold out, no one else is going to go in. So, oh man, better luck next time. Now you know next time, I should probably buy tickets to the show. It's so great. The show was great. Everyone was there. All my friends had fun. Stuff like that. That's just my view. That's just, my point of view of things. That's just how I'm seeing things. I think AEW is definitely a competition to WWE. And it's just something that if you don't like to admit that, that's fine. It's whatever. It's your opinion. But I think that's a fact. I think that right there shows that AEW, like, they're an alternative. They are what they're supposed to be. Different. And some people just can't get that. And it's wild and bizarre. It's wild and bizarre that there's even this weird hatred going on between two promotions. Two fan bases and two promotions, right? It's like crazy because where would WWE be without AEW? Where would WWE be if AEW didn't push them to be better? That's also opened up another can of worms about that, right? Because again, competition is great. Look at what WCW did for WWE. It created a whole new attitude era. It created them to be better, and they had megastars. So AEW almost seemed to have done the same thing. Cody Rhodes is one of their biggest stars. Where did Cody Rhodes come from? Well, yeah, he was a WWE guy originally, but it's not like people cared about him as much as they do now. Why do they care about him as much now? Because he went through AEW. What did he do in AEW? He changed himself. He became who he is today. He's different. And so you just got to look at the facts right here. So competition is a good thing. Don't be overwhelmed. Don't be angry about it. Let it exist. Why even complain about a show that you don't care about, right? Why even complain about something you don't watch? It's a weird environment when you go onto like these wrestling fan pages. Weird things, because it's hard to be a wrestling fan and enjoy all wrestling when you just see a lot of hatred on here. It's hard to join a dedicated wrestling page that doesn't have a bunch of hatred in it for one company or another. I just want to enjoy wrestling. Why is this so difficult? Why are people arguing about these silly little things like, oh, AEW is not competitive to WWE? Yes, it is. Why else are they doing the things they're doing? So, it's just what it is. Even the bidding war between wrestlers, that's a thing. I don't know. That's all I got to say. That's all I had to say. So, if you guys like this podcast episode, like, comment, rate, subscribe, do whatever you do on YouTube and outside. I will see you guys next week. But for now, go to bed.